You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Randy's been listening to the show. We really appreciate you listening. And Randy is actually he's the president of the local of that's organizing that Amazon shop down in Bessemer. So Randy, thank you so much for listening and for hanging on the line with us. And so we've got Dan from Madison on the line now, and he is. And then David's answering the phone. We got somebody else calling in. So Dan from Madison, he's called in a few times, and we really appreciate him calling in. He's a good brother from the Letter Carriers Local 462 here in North Alabama. They're actually working on affiliating with our Labor Council. So we appreciate we appreciate that. And Dan, we appreciate you calling in. You wanted to tell a story about the union saving your job, and then and then you had a question for us.
Well, I'm not so much union's going to save everybody's job. That's what they're there for. But they're also there for your benefits, which I have very good ones. So, you know what? I'm all for it. I have no problem. It's awesome that I have a union. I'm very fortunate and blessed. But I have a question that might puzzle you, and I need an answer because it's something that did happen. And now we got to figure out how to help these people. They lost the pipeline that I just had. What was the name of the pipeline? I just had a mental thought. I've got it written down.
Keystone.
The Keystone. That's right. The Keystone pipeline. These people have lost their jobs, and these jobs are high-paying jobs. You're talking over $100,000 plus, and these people have lost their jobs of a stroke of a pen. And these are also people that voted for the Biden that is pro-union. So what do we do for the people that have lost their jobs? And mind you, these jobs also benefit other people that live in these communities because hotels have to put these people up, and the hotel entrepreneur, he makes money also, or she does also. So where do we go from here? How do we help these union members? Where are they going to find high-paying jobs if they go back home and there's no high-paying jobs and they lost their job?
Right.
So it's a tough question, and I'm hoping you can give me some answers.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. And we've got a YouTube channel, the Valley Labor Report. You can go there, and we did a segment last week or the week before that where we went through some of the Biden administration's first acts that and we did talk about this, and there's a few things to think about. For one, actually a pipeline is ultimately going to be fewer jobs than transporting oil and gas via truck and things like that. So you're actually going to end up employing more people if you do it if you don't have a pipeline than if you do have a pipeline. So that's one thing. That doesn't that doesn't necessarily help the people that the pipe fitters that would have been, but the pipe fitters put the Teamsters out of work, right? Because that's ultimately what would have happened. But the pipe fitters, the electrical workers that are going to be on that job, they're part of these international unions, and they have. And one of the things that's really good about being in the trade unions is that if work dries up in your area, then you will be able to find a job in another area. The IBEW, the pipe fitters, they've got, if work dries up in your area, they've got work all over the country, all over the United States and Canada that you can go to, so that's a really good thing that these workers can fall back on. Additionally, we know, Dan, here in Huntsville what happened with Remington. They were promising boatloads of jobs and they did not deliver, and there are a lot of groups that reckon that the Keystone thing would be similar. They promised a boatload of jobs. Currently, there's only a few hundred union jobs that are good paying. But currently there's only a few hundred, and they reckon the estimate that was the ultimate number was probably a bit high, so that's another thing to consider. And the last thing to consider that I think is probably the most important is that this was on Native American treaty land that we are legally supposed to ask their permission for, and we did not. And in the Constitution, it says that our treaties that we make with sovereign nations, which these Native American tribes are supposed to be uber alles. Any treaty that we make with another country is supposed to supersede any other considerations. And so, it doesn't matter even if you can make 1 billion jobs on another country's land. If the other country says no, you can't do it, or you don't even ask permission, then we've got to respect their right to their land. And also we've got to consider it in the full context of what the Biden administration is doing with their other jobs. He did a Buy American executive order. He did an executive order that's going to be shooting to electrify the government fleet, which is estimated to create 1 million jobs. And his administration is going to be emphasizing union employment. So I think those are all things that we've got to consider when we're looking at the Keystone situation. And that's why ultimately, as a union member, I'm not terribly for these individual workers, I know that they're going to be able to find employment doing something else. And the unions aren't stupid. They knew that Biden was going to do this, and they knew that it would still be in their interests to endorse Biden over Trump.
Are we back on the Keystone pipeline again?
I got a question for you.
I think that's my take. I think those are all things that are important to consider. And Molly, Jenny, and here's another thing to consider: the IWW does not endorse politicians at all. No union uses union dues to contribute to political campaigns, but the IWW does not endorse politicians. We don't do no union activity goes towards campaigns or politicians or anything like that. But I think that's stuff worth considering. Molly, Jenny, do you have anything to add to that? Or
I just want to say that I think that with issues like this, where it's intersecting a lot of different issues, I guess is the right word. We all exist in a global labor market, and I want to say a global labor movement. And from what I've seen, that pipeline and other really similar ones are going to do serious harm to other workers, in that they're going to pollute Native American land. They're going to pollute areas where workers, if you want to get really labor focused on it, it's going to harm other workers and harm other people. And I think in that case, looking at the global labor movement, it's a really good idea for us to not do harm and for us to show solidarity with each other about that.
Yeah. Well, I have a question. One more question. I'll hang up. And thanks again for letting me talk on the radio. The question I have is, and I'll give you my opinion when I ask you the question, and then you give me your opinion. I think it's safer to have a pipeline than travel on wheels, 18-wheelers, wind tankers that could easily, a car could cut across and hit a tanker head on. They could slip on ice, whatnot. So I think it's safer to transport in the pipeline than it is in a vehicle. Don't you agree?
We talked about this last week, and I think you're absolutely correct. I think the administration has done, and not just this administration, previous administrations as well, has done a lot of bloviating around the environmental impact that the pipeline may or may not have. But the thing for me is, they've run this pipeline in many places through eminent domain. And if you're a conservative, and if you believe in conservative values, stealing someone's land, and especially stealing tribal land of people that we've already exploited for 100 years, it flies in the face of everything you believe. And anybody that stands up for that doesn't stand up for conservative or so-called conservative values or liberal values or really just any values.
Yeah, that I had a lot of stuff that I laid out, but I think that's really the biggest. That's really the linchpin in the thing, is that this wasn't our land to do a pipeline on, and so there's not really much of a conversation to have after that. If it's not ours to do with, that's
amazing. Whenever you make a point, all of a sudden somebody hangs up.
Well, no, he said he was gonna. Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna ask you the question, and I'm gonna get off the air. But Dan, we appreciate you calling in, and I think it's important to have these conversations with folks that may have differing opinions or worldviews, and we're all we're still brothers in the labor movement.
It goes back to the same thing we talk about every week, and everything in the media is created to divide people, and that is one thing that you're not going to hear on this show is a division among crappy ass political panderers is right and left. We're going to try to do our best to cut through the BS and tell you exactly, the crux of the matter. And when you have people call in talking about, and it's on both sides. The environmental impact of the pipeline. The environmental impact is going to be 100 times worse with trains and trucks driving it, because that is crap oil. It's shell oil that's imported from Canada, going to the Gulf Coast, being sold to China, because nobody in America will refine the crap. So, and they're delivering it right now, and they've been delivering it for 10, 15 years. So the environmental impact is going to be much greater. But at the same time, you can't steal tribal people's land. You can't steal anybody's land, but especially the Native American land.
They've got so little left.
What kind of crap is that?
Yeah, that's.
It's also no one shows solidarity with Native causes. Like our history has shown that we have. America has no solidarity with Native people, and that needs to stop, and it needs to change. And I think you're totally right. That's the overarching issue, and that's what we need to look at. But I mean, speaking to the environmentalism, we know that we need to move away from this.
Yes.
Why don't we start now?
Yeah.
I think that it's really obvious that solar and wind are where the jobs are. Why don't we talk about that? Like, we're moving away from this. Obviously, it exists. It's what's happening right now. We need to deal with like how we deal with oil right now, because it's 2021 and it's still happening. But looking towards the future, we really need to shift how we do stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, let's do it. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's put union jobs. Let's put more effort into these types of energy that are going to take us into the future.
Pipe fitters and electrical workers, like, they're going to get jobs when we're talking about making wind turbines and throwing up solar panels and stuff. You know, that's the exact professions that we're going to need to actually build up an efficient and clean and sustainable energy source. And
you constantly have these people that want to talk about how far we are behind every other country, and especially China, because this seems to be the talking point nowadays is China Joe. America has always been innovative. They've always driven the innovation, and it seems to me like here lately the right wants to regress, and what we need to be doing is, like you just said, investing in moving into the future. If you want America to continue to be the leader, supposedly, then invest in the future. Get away from this crap and start, because it's going to put people to work. They're going to invest in educational resources, in development resources, as far as developing a better form of this solar panels and things like that. Let's get away from it. If you want to be the leader, then let's start doing it. But you can't lead from behind saying we need oil. Yeah, we need oil right now, but we also need to be investing in clean energy, because it's coming. At one point, whether you appreciate it or not, I mean, China's building most of your panels right now. Why aren't we building them in America?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to invest in America.
Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week, get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, you can search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. We stream the program. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments and release them throughout the week. That way, if there's just one topic that looked interesting to you, you don't want to watch the full show, you can do that. We also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So to see if we are on your listening platform of choice, you can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm. transistor.fm/subscribe. And we do have a website, thevalleylaborreport.org. And finally, if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/thevalleylaborreport.